It's that time of year again. Over 11 months ago, I made my theory on what was going on within Stories of Sodor Season 5, and for the most part, my theories were either proven right, debunked, or somewhere in between. Now skipping over to present time, Season 6 is finally upon us, and it's time we dissect what this season is all about, and uncover who that mysterious engine is in the last episode. This is my prediction theory for Season 6 of Stories of Sodor. Let's begin. Recovery is the first episode, and of course it's about the recovery of Sodor after the events of 1965. By the looks of the first episode's thumbnail, it's obvious that Percy will be going through some PTSD, as well as Derek becoming the new fire and rescue chief, therefore becoming Percy's therapist. As far as I'm aware, I think most of the episode will focus on Percy and Derek, given the description for the episode that leaked onto the Stories of Sodor wiki. However, we know that Victor usually has 2 stories within the episode, and I believe this trend will continue onwards for the foreseeable future. And this is only supported by the Stories of Sodor wiki, which stated that Donald apologizes to Rob in this episode, so there is that other plot line. Next is Informant, and based on the thumbnail, I believe that Sean Hall wasn't alone in his plan, and of course he probably had someone on the inside informing him about which train was going where, and this leads me to believe that the informant is someone we know, and I have full confidence in believing that Radek Zelenka is the informant for Sean Hall's plan of revenge. Radek is a Czech man who escaped Nazi occupation and whose family was persecuted by the Nazis. This meant that some of his family was forced to join the SS. One of his family members was captured and tried for war crimes, which eventually led to Adam pushing a coach of POWs into the sea. One of those men who drowned was Radek Zelenka's family member. I believe that even after Adam showed remorse for what he did, Radek wasn't satisfied and eventually grew resentful of the railway he worked on. That amount of resentment is what led to Sean Hall convincing him to help him in his plan of revenge. When the trailer shows us the preview for Informant, it shows us Francis with 3 workers who have an orange vest on. I believe that these 3 have some ties to Sean Hall, and that one of these men is Radek. Since the Hall plotline from Season 2 was resolved by Season 5, then naturally one would assume Season 6 would have to wrap up some other plotline, and I believe this plotline is Radek Zelenka being the informant for Sean Hall's plan of attack. However, like I said before, I believe these episodes have 2 stories to them, so my prediction for this other plotline is that someone higher up within BR also knew about the plan and was eventually removed for knowing about it, which leads to a change in leadership in the 3rd episode. Leadership is difficult to pinpoint its plot and what happens in it. However, I believe that this episode revolves around the change in leadership from Beeching to an unknown person. This is the most vague episode out of the bunch. However, using our next episode as a guide, I believe leadership is about the new engines on the Fat Controller's railway. Or it could be about the engines getting their rights taken away. But whatever the case may be, this episode will probably be overshadowed by the next one, and why the engines getting their rights taken away in this series is even an option. Enter Troublemaker, and oh boy, Twitter is furious about this. Dudley temporarily joins the story as he does a bit of trolling on Sodor. I'm pretty sure that Bear isn't on Sodor during this time, but I can't really be sure about that. But what I can say for sure is that there's a possibility of Joshua joining the ranks of Sodor again, and he being the victim of Dudley's nonsense. I believe this is due to Season 5's opening showing both Dudley and Joshua in the same shot together. Thus, there is a story, or rather a possibility, of both of them sharing the story within Troublemaker. Episode 5, or Limits, discusses Daisy testing her limits. In the shot we see of this episode, we see Daisy pushing a train up Gordon's Hill, and I believe that this could be her trying to make up for a previous banker of sorts. Maybe even Dudley, perhaps? Maybe he was sent as a banker and refuses to do so, hence him being sent away? Who knows? But I believe that Limits also involves the limits of steam diesel conversion, and how it isn't really a solution to the engine's longevity, which eventually leads into losses. Losses probably refers to the Skarloey Railway losing business to the roads as shown. It could also be that someone loses their life in this episode, as we know Victor likes to kill off a lot of people and engines in this series. Arlesdale is relatively obvious and the easiest to figure out its plot, besides Troublemaker of course. Arlesdale revolves around the construction of the Arlesdale Railway, which obviously leads into musician, as one of the miniature engines probably heard the lady, probably already know her name. Yep, it's Alicia Vati, and she's probably going to get famous for her music and perform on Sodor and around the UK, perhaps maybe the world even. It could also be about the Beatles as well, which could lead into protests about the Vietnam War. Protests is about how the Vietnam War protests affected Sodor, and I believe that this episode is one of the most important within this season. Of course, this could very well be about the steam ban as well, or something along those lines, but whichever the case may be, I believe these events will cause a massive adjustment to the stories of Sodor. Adjustment is about the aftermath of protesters, and perhaps now the steam engines will have to adjust to the changes, perhaps maybe making the island of Sodor a steam refuge. But the biggest change in this season is probably Joey. Now, I'm aware that people think that the engine at the shot of adjustments is either Joey or Percy. I had thought about it being Kate, but lo and behold, Kate has a cab that is not enclosed. Also, Victor said that the engine was a he and not a she. So, is this Percy? Maybe, but the dome is a bit too skinny to be Percy's, as his dome is low and a bit large. It must be that Joey takes over Thomas's branch line, which is intriguing to me for several reasons. If this is true, that means that Joey has officially retired from service, and perhaps this means that Thomas's branch line is a heritage site of sorts, as it is a tourist attraction. This could also be something that the Skarloey Railway does as well to keep afloat, turning it into a heritage railway. This is fascinating news to me and makes me wonder something that I didn't think about before, but now makes me wonder if this could happen. As I said in my Thomas Isn't Dead video, I believe that Thomas could come back in some way due to the Railway series book and the TV series. However, if we take Joey being the new Thomas at face value, I no longer believe that. Joey taking over Thomas's role flips my entire view of how I view Thomas stories in the Railway series and the TV series within the Stories of Sodor universe. What if Joey is Thomas in those stories? Not just in the RWS, but in every single non-Audrey story as well. This includes every model series story as well. The ramifications of this are quite interesting. But hey, that's just a theory. A train theory. Thanks for watching.